Alright, hello. I'm gonna be doing sort of another one as far as this one. So here we have an Uber which Quest pays more per trip. So what I basically done is found out how much each Quest was. So let's say you do 90 trips, and then you divide that by your bonus, which in this case would be 325. And so you would get a value of around 0.27 whatever right trip per dollar. So in this case, when you're taking all the values to see here, you would want, since all of them are going to be trips per the same dollar, you would want to complete the lowest trip for that same dollar, because that means it was lower mileage and less expensive, right? But you're still getting paid the same because it's all per dollar. In other words, one per each $1. So if you do 90 trips and you get a bonus of 325, you know, for each dollar you're having to complete 0.27692308 of a trip to get $1. The 101 pays much better. It's a much lower value, right? So you have to only complete around 0.25 or a quarter of a trip for that same dollar. And then again, you go for 80, 240. You have to complete around a third of a trip for that same dollar. So far it's looking that the $100 one is gonna be the most bang for your buck. That's where you have to complete the least amount of trips to get that same per dollar. But remember, things have been pretty slow. It's getting harder and harder to even achieve maybe the mid high, so maybe even 80 to 90 or 70 to 90. It's getting a little harder to achieve because you have to sometimes wait for that trip. And when you do get trips, these sometimes end up being a lot longer this time. You have many trips that go into New York. So remember, once you're stuck in New York, you're either using driving time or you're missing out on prime time or when it's a busy time, either way. So again, driving back out of New York is gonna lose you on those trips. So in this case, the higher end values are worth it more per trip, but it's probably gonna be a lot harder to reach those values. So again, I found all the values here for all the trips. And so remember, I think I showed this on the promotion, and from this you could see, well, it pays. I chose the 60 to 80 because with the 61, for 60 trips I get a bonus of $115, and so that means I have to do approximately half, or 0.52173913 trips per that same dollar. And I have the potential of going to 80 trips and get a 240 bonus, and that one I would have to do about remember a third of a trip for that same dollar. So again, it's looking maybe around a 40, maybe 40%. No, I didn't find out the math between these two numbers, but it's still pretty good trajectory, because anywhere above that you're not doing the same thing, and it's definitely getting a lot harder to even achieve this one. This might be unachievable at this point. And 60 is reasonably achievable. If they had a 70 to 81, I would have chosen that one, but remember, those aren't our choices. There's only 70 to 90, and you're unlikely to reach the 90 because of how long and how long you end up being stuck in New York, as well as the length of each trip these days. So I decided to take it back down a notch to 80, which is again, you're only used from the 80, right? This is 80.3 of a trip to get to your 0.27. So you're missing out on 0.05 of a trip to get that same buck. It's not that big of a difference, but you will probably have to maybe hustle for the 81 even, because of how hard it is. But I guess we'll find out this weekend anyway, and how accurate I was in my predictions. But the math is the math, the math. So as you can see, it makes more sense to do maybe a 30 to 41, because you know you're still getting 0.4. So it's definitely the less of a trip for that same dollar, less wear and tear in your car. But you're still going to pay that same dollar again. You're only missing 0.07. Remember, my jump is actually a little bit more reasonable. I'm only missing from the 90 to, from going from the 90 to the 80 trip, I'm only missing 0.05. No, 0.06, sorry. Or maybe I was taking into account the other one. But actually, no, that's, no, yeah, it's approximately right. So that's about half. So it's more like 5.5 or something. But either way, you're not really missing much as far as here. You're missing 0.06 or 0.055, or 0.055, yeah, 5.5. So but here you're missing about maybe 0.4. And remember, you're probably going to be able to do 30 to 40 pretty easily. And then if you keep going after it, you're not going to have the potential for anything higher than that. Again, 40 to 50 again, pretty achievable, even with the longer trips we've been getting lately. Again, a jump of around 0.05, not bad, but come on, we all know we could go for 60 at least. And remember, the 50 to 70, that's good, but remember, we'll probably achieve in the middle pretty easily. So, and then maybe the 71, okay, we'll achieve it maybe at that point. Maybe might be Sunday morning, so you could still possibly maybe doing 10 in the evening for that evening shift. But so you could probably still reach 80. I'm still here, but to do 20 for that evening shift to get to that 90, it's still gonna be probably unlikely, just because they end up being longer and you're stuck in New York. Now, since here you have to choose, remember, I put it to choose the lowest value, and here in this case, right, I would have to choose the lowest value because that means the less fraction of a trip to get that same dollar. But if here, like, or you can have it easier and choose the most higher value by taking the reciprocal. So, you know, you could just take your bonus and divide it by the amount of trips. An example, right, just did the first one, 325 divided by 90 trips. And you get around $3.61 repeating dollars per trip. So in this case, you would want the higher value, but they really display the same thing, only inversely. So you do this one, right, you get that much per trip. And you can also get the same value by taking the reciprocal. This is supposed to say reciprocal, right? So you take, right, remember, because this is over one per trip, that means one trip, right? I mean per dollar here in this case, sorry. Right, trip per dollar, so that's $1. So you could easily just take your reciprocal and take that one, take that one here. So remember, I took that $1 and divided it by, well, what's on the numerator in this case, 0.27, and I couldn't fit it all, but you can see this is the value I took. So I took 1 here, divided it by this value, and you get the same number. They both just displayed in a different version. So you want the higher value, right? The most money per trip. So again, here it shows you 100 trips, $400. That means you're getting an extra $4 per each trip. Again, these are all pretty good numbers. You're getting a pretty good money. Well, as far as Uber and bonuses, you're getting the most of money out of what the options they have given you. So you get, you know, the most amount per each trip out of the possible options they're giving you, or the possible quests. But remember, $4 per trip. Remember, if you don't reach 100, you're not even gonna get, you get $4 per trip. You get nothing. If you don't reach 90, you're not gonna get that stuff. So you end up with nothing. You end up walking away with no bonus per each trip if you don't hit these. So again, you work way down. You see a big jump with the 70. So you start with the 93, 51, and then you drop to 23. So that's maybe what, 2/3 of it, of what it was. Let's see, 6 goes into 24 4 times, and 6, so 4 over 6. Yeah, it's approximately 2/3. So you get going from 90 trips to 70, you get approximately 2/3 of per trip. And it's still so you drop about a third of your bonus going from 90 to 70 trips. But here you could still have a potential of $3 per trip, which is still pretty good, and you're missing about 61 cents per each trip. And remember, because you're not doing those 10 trips, those 61s could be 61 times 10 is around $6. So you only end up missing around $6 if you miss out on those 61 cents, or $6.10 or 11 cents repeating, or whatever it is. So you only end up missing around $6 if you were to continue doing that. But remember, you're not going to get any bonus after that, so you can't really scale it that same way. I would assume, oh, after 90 I get paid the same, but remember, after you're 80, you're not getting paid. There's no other bonus to recharge. Sometimes they give you another one, or they used it, but not anymore. So there's no point going after that. At this point, you reach it. You're only going to get per fare trip. There's not going to be any more bonus after that. So if you want a possibility, you could have chosen the one with a cap of approximately 90. But the only other cap for 90 is from 70 to 90, which is a pretty big jump to 70, remember? Sure, you get more than per trip in 60, but sometimes even getting 70 could be a pretty big one. And remember, while you might get 70 and you get your 2.3 5 7 14 28 $6 per trip, as opposed to maybe just the 1.916 repeating per trip, you're gonna have a much harder time making the jump from here to here, from the 70 to 91. Whereas in here, you have a pretty reasonable jump to still get to 80. They're both 20 trip jumps, but remember, you're running out of time, driving time, and possible trips by that point. So from the jump from 60 to 80 is still 20 trips, but those 20 trips are gonna be achieved. Remember, by the time you reach 70, it's like you've taken 10 out of your possible next jump, because you still haven't reached any bonus yet until you reach 70. That's your first bonus. Whereas in the other one, you would have already hit a certain bonus, and that would have probably at least covered your gas and maybe a meal or two with the Uber one. But here, if you didn't reach 70 at all, you had a really slow weekend, you get nothing. This is for safety, to at least get something. Or in my case, your car breaks down. Damn Toyota. So you end up stranded and you end up deactivated because of a false report last week. And no, the false report was not for my car breaking down. It happened to be completely unrelated. So I got Uber telling me, oh, you got a report. And at the same time, like, I had done a few more trips that night, and I noticed that my car was turning on and off at around turns, and that was pretty scary, because once that car turns off for that split second, the steering wheel is really hard. You can't turn it. It's as if it's off at that point, but then it flicks back on. It's really scary, especially when you're doing a turn when in the city where there's lots of cars and very high risk of accidents. So since that kept happening, I decided to end my trip right there, and well, it just ended up turning off, so you had to call support and all that stuff. And then I also found out, wait, you've also been deactivated. So there were clearly a bunch of reasons to why not. There are many factors that contributed to you not being able to. I remember, to get reactivated, you're also losing out on prime time the next day. The car wasn't a big deal. Someone just hooked up the battery improperly. Just get that tightened up and hooked it back up. Fine. Easy fix. Took like 5 minutes to do. The harder part was getting it to reactivate, because I had to submit photos, and I did submit them, and they kept asking for more and more and more, and they finally reactivated it. But at that point, it was 9 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and I only had to do 10 trips. But at that point, those 10 trips that would have been easily completed within those last few hours, 3 to 4 hours even beforehand, pretty easily, were uncompletable, because at that point it starts to dry up. You get longer trips. I ended up completing 6 more trips, and that was around 3:30 in the morning. So they all, and to be fair, half of them went to New York. So I ended up being stuck in New York. It's a half hour to New York. Once I'm in New York, I have to drive back. Even if I only go by the Holland Tunnel or any of the other tunnels, doesn't matter. I'm still stuck in New York. We're driving back. I can't pick up in New York. I can only do deliveries in New York. I am not going to do deliveries in New York because of the traffic laws in New York, as well as I don't want to get another ticket, especially in New York, which is huge. Remember, also, you can remember that's still going to take away from it. So this is just more or less a precaution because and if it's not, and if I could easily do 80 trips, I don't know why they brought back the 100 one, considering it's still being pretty slow. So I don't understand where they think we're gonna pull off the 100. Maybe they just want everyone to think, oh, well, this week, probably can't. No, Uber can't predict how many people are gonna take trips. Okay, they're just probably putting it so that everyone chooses it. No one hits it. They don't have to pay them any bonus. Let's take it back down a notch. This is still pretty reasonable. You can still make a decent jump up to 3. Remember, it is almost 2/3 again, similar to that one. Again, you're making a pretty decent jump for here. Anywhere than that, getting to that next jump, you're probably not going to make that next jump. Whereas if you've got 80, you've done more than 70, so you still got more per trip, and it's probably going to be a lot more achievable than making the next jump. You get here, pretty achievable. But remember, if you only get to 80, you don't get your extra bonus on top of that. Which remember, you're not getting this on top. It's just by the end of it. Once you complete your 90 trips, each trip would have been approximately 361 and repeating for each trip. So you're risking a bonus of 2.3, whatever, from that absolute lowest bonus to this possible highest bonus. It's only a third jump again from here, but remember, this jump is going to be a lot easier considering how slow it's been. If you get to 70, well, you still at least hit something, so you're still at least getting paid for something. And again, it's not that bad here. I mean, you could look at it in a way where you are getting almost half of the 100, but it's not half the trips. So this is an interesting thing. I don't think my math might be a bit sketchy here, or maybe it did scale. No, it's right. So remember, you're getting a difference of 0.005, or if you want to take those, so 0.005 or whatever, to jump from. So you're going to get paid actually a little bit less if you complete the 60 trips as opposed to the 50 trip, because 526, and this is 521. So again, this one, you're not going to be losing out because you actually want the lower value, so this one's still better, and you can compare it here. Remember, and here's better. You can see it better just because the numbers end up being smaller. So you're actually going to be missing out. Not really missing out. You're going to be only be gaining 0.0116 for those extra 10 trips. If you were to, as opposed to each one trips, it's a small jump from the 50 to 60. But where this is really heading for is to really get that big jump from the approximately $2 to $3 per trip. That's approximately a 50% increase, or a decrease of 2/3. So you could look at it either way. Whereas when you round this to 2, approximately 50% of 2 is 50% of 2 is another one, so it's over 3. But here, this is approximately 2, and this is maybe 2.4. So it's not even. So you may be risking a jump of 25% maybe here. And here this is a weird one, where you would actually have a decrease. So here you would actually have a decrease. So 40 to 50 trips. 40 trips, you get $2.12.5 per each trip. But if you do 50, then each bonus ends up being $1.9 per each trip. And if you're choosing between these two, you might want to at that point just get the lower one, because you would get more per trip with the 30, and then maybe actually take a shot out. So it actually decreases 30 to 40. You lose out on actually the higher trips. 40 to 50 again, you lose on the higher trips. 50 to 70 is where you go from, well, from that same one where you actually start jumping up, where you actually start benefiting from that. So it curves up. So it was going down and now it's starting to go back up from each jump. Again here, a jump again, and again here, another jump. 80 to 100, 80 to 100, right here, right? You go from $3 to $4, and 90 to 100 from $3.61 to $4. So again, it's on a 40-cent jump, whereas in the 80 to 100 one is approximately 30. If you're starting at $3, and it's a 33% jump, which is better than actually no, that jump is only 33% as opposed to everything here has been approximately a 50% jump. 24 out of 36 ends up being around right. So you take your 24, half of 24 is 12. So 24 times 1.5 would give you around 36. So that's approximately 50% jump starting from your initial. And again here, round this to 2. Half of 2 is 1, so 1.5 times 2, you get 3. It's a 50% jump, right? So, but here it's not. You're only you're 3 to 4. That's a 33% jump. So the jump is really tapering off. You're not making those huge jumps anymore in terms of bonuses, whereas you would have gotten 33. Right, so you get $3 per trip, and then you jump only to $4 per trip if you get the next bonus. It's still more per trip, but the actual jumps by how much they're increasing each is diminishing. You're still getting more money per trip, but remember, as far as jumping in each trip is actually less. Remember, 3 to 4 ends up only being a 33 increase, so 1.3233 times your $3 to get to your $4 trip, whereas in here you do approximately a 1.5 or 50% increase to the original to get to your next jump here and here too. This is where both of them are approximately 50%, or if you look at it the other way, 2/3 or 4/6 off of the so if you look start from so you can see 3, and then the other one is 2, so 2 out of 3. So then you can either look at it at 4/6, or if you start here, 50%. So these two are both around approximately 50% jumps, and here it's where you're start getting your 33% jump, and here's where you get even less of that, because remember, you could round this to 35, 5, 7, 7, and 8. So you could look at it as maybe a 7/8 jump from here to here, which is a really slow jump to be coming. But then again, this is only 10 trips, so even if you were to do that 7/8, or you can multiply that by 2, which will give you 7/8. Alright, so 7, you could have had maybe a 7/8 jump from there to there. Right, so 35, 5 is a common, 5 and 4 to 35, 40. 5 goes into both, that goes 7, that goes 8 times. So you're making a jump of approximately multiple 7 to multiple of 8, so that's like 1. But if you multiply it by 2, you can approximate another 1 to get to that jump off. So 1 point whatever 7 times, that goes into it 8 times. So I would have had to add 1/7 more, and whatever that is. So you add 1/7 more, and then another 2/7. So you can approximate that's 5 and 5. So you could if this went up to 110, you would have had maybe 4.5, which would have made it a lot more. A lot more reasonable to maybe have, because they're all by 20. This one caps off at 100. So the jumps aren't that great, mainly because the last one has to be 10, so you could just divide each jump also by 10. So that 50% jump, you can put a 25% jump if you want to scale it. So around 50% is for those 20 here. Remember, this is for 20 trip caps. If you want to have, let's say if it was only 10 trips, so you can multiply your 50% by 25%, 25% increase of 36. It'd be 18 or 9. So you can add 9. Remember, so half of 36 is 18. So 50%, 50% is 18. So 25 would be half of half. In other words, 1/4. And remember, if you're taking half of a half, it's 1/4. So half of 18 is 9. So 36 and 9 would have given you 4. So 4.5. And that would have been your reasonable trips. Approximately your for 110 if you had the theoretical 110 trip quest. So hopes this helps, and hope you can see that these are both saying the same thing. I just took the reciprocal for this one because it makes more sense, and there's usually a lot less repeating numbers. Or you could have just straight off forward taken this divided by this. Remember, they both equal the same thing. So hopes that helps in terms of choosing which one you want to do. And I guess, luck to everyone that's driving out this weekend. Hopefully you don't catch anything or get hurt.